Well, hello my friends, and welcome to the latest episode in the Vegematic saga that has gone on for over 10 years in dribs and drabs and fits and starts, but that's the way my life has always gone. Now, originally I was planning to do a video with T-Bone and send thoughts back and forth, and which we started to do, and unfortunately my health issues prevented it for a week. And then the second week I started to get really bored with YouTube and watching it less and less as it becomes more and more corporatized and mainstream, and it's really hard to find stuff that the average person can relate to. Now, we have gone from the idea of a democratic medium where everybody can participate into a kind of hierarchy that is set by algorithms and set by monopolistic giant tech companies. So of course most platforms fall victim to this over time and become less and less relevant, less and less interesting, and more divisive. And this of course leads me to wonder, what have I done with my life? And as my life winds down into the twilight zone with what's going on in the world right now, it's a scary time for all of us, and quite possibly the edge of extinction. It's getting worse, isn't it? And rather than draw energy together, so much of what we see here are fed, spoon-fed, we try and make sense of. And if you don't have accurate information, it's hard to make sense of things. We've become so polarized that we can choose our facts. We can decide what is real and what is fake. There is no objective truth left in the world. So choose your poison when it comes to information that you're putting into your head. What's going on in Ukraine and with the monster Putin is just indicative of where we're going as a planet, as a species. We're incredibly self-destructive. We have lost our humanity in so many ways. And even people on the left, if they agree with you 90% of the time and there's one issue where they don't, all of a sudden you're at each other's throats. And this is what has fundamentally gone wrong. The internet, since its introduction way back, I only entered the digital world sometime around 2005, before I even bothered getting a computer, because prior to that it wasn't really all that necessary, and I wanted to divorce myself from what I saw as being an intrusive electronic invasion of my psyche. So we find ourselves overlooking a precipice right now, and the nuclear threat is real, more real than it has been probably since the Cuban Missile Crisis, when I was, I would say, 5 years old. I remember as a kid, my parents were talking that there was going to be a war, because it was the showdown when Russia had its missiles and pointed at the US from Cuba. I remember as a kid not really understanding what it meant, but knew it was bad and that horrible things were going to happen. And my immediate thought was, I better go and hide the birds, because we had pet birds in a cage, and you know, I'm afraid they're going to get blown up and everything. So this sort of childish way of looking at things. So we're sitting here on the nuclear precipice, and for those of us who have been pacifists for years, it's very difficult because I'm anti-war. That does not mean that I can side with a madman like Putin or a madman like Herr Trumpf. However, What Putin is doing in no way excuses what America has done. War is horrible, terrifying. And it's said that when the last of the World War II veterans die off, there'll be nobody left to warn us how we can fall easily into these traps. We do it by being lazy about democracy, by allowing the very worst of the worst to assume the heights of great power. And in the completely insane, ridiculous section of the news, we have Lauren Bobo Boebert going on to Fox News and saying that America needs to liberate Canada. I guess to liberate us to be able to gun each other down in the streets, to have killer cops, to have a racist, redneck form of government like she longs for in her own shithole country. When Fox, so-called, or whatever they are, they're not news, propaganda channels, starts equating Canada with Putin's Russia, you got problems. You got such disinformation problems. And it all stems back to media consolidation, the media being allowed to consolidate, to perpetrate fiction and infotainment. And this is what happens, again, when people aren't paying attention to democracy. You lose it. How can we possibly heal anything when we're constantly at each other's throats? How can we advance in any possible way when greed and hatred are all that we understand? How can we hope to build a livable world where justice might prevail? Not just us, justice, freedom, taking care of your neighbor. It always amazes me to see evangelical Christians who are the very antithesis of anything that Jesus taught. Instead of welcoming the stranger, let's build some robot dogs to go after them. That's some scary shit. The use of artificial intelligence and robotics, and what do we use it for? To help humanity? To solve problems? No, we use it to make robot dogs to attack people. Weapon systems that are so horrendous as to not even be imaginable. The human mind cannot conceive that another human, supposedly, can come up with something so barbaric and so evil. No compassion. We're taught from a young age to lose any compassion that you have. I mean, this goes from the pictures of smiling cows on boxes of cheese to happy little dancing pigs. Advertising. Yes, just don't question the cruelty behind everything, the horrendous viciousness, and any sort of compassion that children naturally feel should be beaten out of them. No wonder depression is off the charts. Does anybody remember the cartoon that happened to come out right around New Year's, where there's these people holding a pole and slowly opening the door to 2022 with a look of apprehension and fear on their face? It turns out to be kind of prophetic, doesn't it, with the situation that we're now facing. It's inconceivable, the horrors that humans can inflict upon each other and the animal world. It's inconceivable, the barbarity, the cruelty, the lack of concern. And where is it bringing us? It's bringing us to this point where we're looking into the abyss. the possibility of instantaneous destruction of everything and everybody. And it's not one madman. It's these people that we allow into power. The most ignorant, the most vile, the most egotistical. These are the ones that rise to power in our culture because we weren't paying attention. We were busy perhaps arguing with each other over things that aren't going to matter at all when the bomb goes off. I'd like to read you the comment of the week from the video 2 weeks ago that I did about the trucker protest now, which in retrospect feels like pretty small potatoes compared to the potential oblivion of all humankind because we've invented these horrendous things to kill each other. Isn't that the way technology is usually used? It's not. It can be used to do amazing things, but we have, as humans, developed way more knowledge than we have wisdom. So we have the knowledge to wipe out every living creature on the planet many times over, and we also have the ability to use technology to heal, to positive things. But overall it's negative. It's been used in a negative way, and perhaps that's what we humans are all about. Anyway, here I'd like to read you a comment from the Vegan Eagle, and this is from a long time ago. No, it says 3 weeks ago now. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I don't know. Thanks for holding firm, Veg. I've been around a fair bit. Wide experiences, vocationally, from education, life experience. I've learned about people and have been in worlds where study of humans was both direct and oblique. From my point of view, the only problem with people is that they are people. Indeed. The natural world isn't like that, as the non-human animal kingdom is clearly superior. Anthony Hopkins once said that he didn't expect much from people. He's on the ball. When people are comfortable and in a good space, they can be fine. Threatened and stressed, totally different. The amygdala is always close to the surface, something that we are seeing more and more often and will rapidly take over brain functions as global heating takes its toll and society disintegrates. And then there is ego, a totally human controller of most people. Thank you. I guess sometimes I have to question my own motivations for doing these videos. It certainly isn't bringing me any sort of riches or fame or any sort of anything at all, really, other than an opportunity to voice one of millions of opinions that you can take and you can agree, or you can like it or you can dislike it, and it doesn't really amount to anything in this world. Billions of videos out there, supposedly. But if there are so many videos being uploaded daily to YouTube, why can't you find them? Why is it always the same old, same old? I mean, the internet has always been a two-edged sword. It can be used to propagandize, it can be used to divide, and originally the thought was that it was going to bring us all together. Yes, and then you realize that people don't censor themselves when they're not really talking to another human. They don't know the other human on the other side, so they feel free to insult, to denigrate, to become part of a tribe. I had a rather interesting conversation on Twitter the other day with a young man, and basically he had written a comment saying that it's all boomers' fault. Boomers have done this to us, and this is a common refrain. I tried to explain to him that the lifetime of experiences that I have had attempting to do the right thing, attending protests for all the good it did, being somewhat of an activist over the years, I can understand why young people are blaming us for everything. And with age, hopefully, comes wisdom. And there isn't much wisdom to be found on the internet these days. So this guy wanted to, I think he said, lower the boom on all boomers or some such reference to, I tried to tell him that we weren't on opposite sides of issues. We were just born at different times. None of us have a choice as to when we're born and when we die. It's something that we're placed here at random, that we have to figure our way out of somehow. And I do believe that after death, that death isn't the end. And I think that how you treat people in this life is probably the most important thing that you can do, so that when you're on your deathbed, you won't have regrets.